Well, today I'm going to teach you how to make these sweet little purses, and there's just a real super variety of ways to do them, and it's quite a lot of fun, and they work up pretty quick. So I'm starting to get ready for the show in September. So first of all, I want to begin by explaining to you that there's seed beads and then there's seed beads. So these gold ones that I'm showing you in the tube, those are size 11. These chunky ones are size 6. And the big case of these that I have here, those are size 9. And 9 is my preference size. And the reason why is because to get wire that's thin enough to use the size 11, which is the most common size seed bead, you have to use like a 29 or 30 gauge wire. And I didn't have access to that. They didn't have any at all at my local Michael's store. So you start off by taking the wire, 18 inches of it, bending it in half, and then you use a bugle bead and then 2 little seed beads and then a second bugle bead. Now the bugle beads are these long thin beads, and you can see here that makes the clasp, and then you bring it down to where it was folded, and then you fold it again, and that will become the clasp of the purse. So I only had access to silver bugle beads. It would be nice if I had some gold ones. So, okay, so now I use 8 beads for each row, although I can go as low as 7 beads or as high as 10 beads, but it seems to look nicest when I use 8 beads of each row. So on one of the strings, and I usually use the one on the right, I put 8 seed beads on. So I'm just doing this in red, this purse. And so once I've got 8 on, then I pull it I pull it down a little bit, you see? And then I take the other side, the other one, the other wire, and then I go back through it the opposite way. So you can see I've just kind of put them down, and then I take that wire and I push it through the opposite way. So then I take each of the short wires and I pull them tight. Do you see how the wires are coming out both ends? And that's why I can't use that size 11 seed bead, because this wire is just slightly too thick for it. So that's why I'm choosing to use size 9. So I pull that really, really super tight. And there you go. That's the first row of my purse. So most of these purses I've made with 3 rows on each side. So now my second row, I'm going to do a row of gold, since I'm using gold colored wire. So I'm going to once again put 8 beads. So just quickly doing this. 8. Oops, that one pinged away. And you'll see sometimes the beads are slightly smaller or slightly bigger. So sometimes if you're doing a pattern, then you'll have to find ones that are all the exact same size. Some of the beads are better for that than others. These metallic colored ones tend to be all uniform in size. And then once again, I'm taking that second piece of wire and I'm going through it the opposite way. And then once I get it right through, then I pull both the short ends and keep on pulling it tight. And it's important to try and pull it the same on each side, like pull it evenly, because it makes it a lot easier just when you get down to the end of the purse. So there you go. And once you've got it all pulled in, then you give it quite a tight pull. And now I'm going to speed it up. So I'm doing the third row, which will be one side of the purse. So you can see here, I'm doing the same thing as before. I'm taking the other wire and I'm going back through the beads the opposite way. And that's what will lock these beads in. So you can see that I take the two short ends and I pull them as evenly as I possibly can and pull them all the way down to the purse and cinch it in really good and tight. And even though these beads are glass, they kind of can really take, you pulling it fairly tight. So now what I'm showing you is that's one half of the purse. So the rest of it will be folded in half when you're finished. So you want to make it exactly the same on the other side. So I'm going to be doing the bottom half of the second side. So that will be one row of red, and then once again going back through the row the opposite way, and then one row of gold, the same as what I did on the other side. And then I'm going to do the last row of red. So I sped this up so you wouldn't have to sit and watch me do all this beading. So it takes me approximately half an hour to do each one of these little purses. And it's a nice relaxing thing to do while you're watching TV. So then, once again, I'm putting the wire back through the opposite way, and then you take the two short pieces of wire and you pull it nice and tight, and that's the entire beading for the purse. So then you can see you want to fold it in half. So just fold it in half, and you want to make sure that the bottom is nice and flat. And there you go. That's what the purse looks like. So now you've got these two wires, and what you want to do is you want to lock them in under the clasp. So go underneath just the bugle bead, you see here, and then pull it nice and tight, and you're going to do that twice, and that will lock it in to make sure that it stays in the purse shape. So then you pull it nice and tight. So I'm going to do the second one in slow motion just so you can see what I'm doing. So now you take the wire, you go underneath just the bugle bead, and then you pull it through, and you pull it nice and tight. So give it a really good yank to make sure that it's nice and tight. You don't want to see loops of the wiring. And then we're going to go through underneath the bugle bead. See here? And then you're going to grab it, and you're going to pull it through, and then you're going to pull it nice and tight. So there you go. That's the purse. So now we've got to make the little handle. So don't worry if the purse is a little bit misshapen at this point, because you can fix it after you do the handle. The most important thing is to make sure that the bottom here is nice and flat. So now I've got it all cinched together. I'm just going to move my beads out of the way, and we're just going to do a simple handle. So we're just going to take the two wires and make a little loop at the top, and then we're going to do one side. So the right side of the purse, we're just going to go wrap the wire around it about 3 or 4 times. 1, there's 2, and then we're going to wrap it around, once more. And just want to make sure that it sort of, when you pull it, that it doesn't bunch up. And then you're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. So we're wrapping it 3 times for this particular purse. So 1, and then through, make a loop. Oops, I missed the hole. 2, and then one more time, 3. So there you go. That's the little handle, nicely made. And you can also use chain for the handles. I'll show you that at the end. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock that handle in. So once again, we're going to go underneath just the bugle bead. You see we're just going underneath the bugle bead. And I'm going to show it to you from the side. See, it's under just the bugle bead. And then you take it and you pull it nice and tight. And that will lock the handle in so it won't unravel. There you go. So that's nice and tight. Now we're going to do the same from the other side. So you're going to go just underneath just the bugle bead and then pull it nice and tight. So there you go. There's your little handle, nicely made. And then you're going to turn it to the side and you're going to go underneath the first 2 rows of beads. So do you see that? It's just through the first 2 rows of beads. And then make sure you pull this tight. You can almost feel it kind of snap in. And then you're going to go right underneath the second row of beads. And you're going to push it through. And then you're going to pull it nice and tight. And then you're going to go through the second row of beads a second time. And that's important that you do it a second time because that's what really holds it together and locks it in. And once again, you give it a good yank. And there's the side of the purse done. And then you just trim it off with preferably wire cutters, but those are my super dull scissors. So we'll go ahead and use those. And then we're going to take it and go underneath the first 2 rows of beads and then pull it through and make sure you do it nice and tight. And then we're going to go through just above the last row of beads, both sets, and then pull it nice and tight. And then you're going to go through that same hole again a second time to lock it in. So through those last 2 rows, right above the last 2 rows, and then pull it really nice and tight, and then trim it off, and make sure that the little end is kind of pushed in so it's not sharp on the edge. And then you're going to put a nice shape to your purse. Make sure that the bottom is nice and flat. You can see it sits down really nice. And there you go. That's what the purse looks like. So it's not hard to do at all. It really isn't. So there you go. And look how cute that is. I mean, it's really super tiny and very detailed and quite attractive. I think that they're just adorable to make. And you don't have to just make them plain rows like this. You can also do them with like a little flower in the center, or you could do them in checkerboard patterns. So you can see some of these purses have 4 rows, not 3. I've done a couple that only have 2 rows on each side. I've done some that are as many as 5 rows on each side. And you can see here, some of them are wrapped wire, just like the one that I did the demonstration on. Some of them I used chain from leftover or old jewelry. This one here has got a particularly nice chain, and you can see it's got a flower pattern in the center. And this one here has a combination of checkerboard and plain ones. This one here, that's one of my favorites. I think that one turned out quite nice with the pink and white. So, I mean, the sky's the limit on what you can do with this. If you are going to Michael's, look for size 9 seed beads because they seem to fit the various size wires quite a bit easier, and my wire came from the dollar store. Well, thank you very much for watching today. I hope you found this video useful. It's quite an easy little craft to do. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. It's free to do so, and it really does help my channel grow. It also helps when you guys leave comments and hit that like button. And for those of you that have been following along with me as I'm restoring my antique dollhouse, guess what? My windows were ready today. But I've got a little bit of work to do before I paint them and install them. So that'll be my next video series. Once again, everyone, have the best day ever.